Good morning and welcome to this inaugural episode of News 2 Now streaming on WCBD Plus. I'm Tim Renaud. Let's jump to today's headlines. Changes begin Tuesday for South Carolina's crabbing industry as new sustainability-focused regulations take effect. State lawmakers approved changes for blue crab fishing last year. The industry had previously been largely unregulated, which left the blue crab population vulnerable to overfishing. Many of the changes affect commercial regulations. However, recreational crabbers will need to follow a few new rules, which impact how much they can harvest and crab pots. Recreational crabbers can only harvest 1 bushel of crabs per day or 2 bushels per boat. Crab pots must have escape rings for undersized crabs and other small marine animals. Single-chambered pots must have at least 1 ring, and 2-chambered pots must have at least 2 rings. Now, you can head over to counton2.com to learn more about these new rules. Again, that's counton2.com. Moncks Corner has unveiled its first ever inclusive playground designed so children of all abilities can play together. The name, Harmony Park, was submitted by a Moncks Corner resident, and it was chosen from more than 240 community entries. The playground features wheelchair-accessible ramps, transfer benches, a musical zone, and a communication board so children who are nonverbal can point to pictures and express themselves. Every detail was designed to make sure kids who are often left out have a place to belong. The park is located at the Moncks Corner Regional Recreation Complex off East Main Street. And the town of Mount Pleasant will hold a ribbon-cutting ceremony Tuesday to celebrate completion of the Pitt Street Bridge Micro-Mobility Project. The upgrades enhance safety and accessibility along Pitt Street by separating motorized and non-motorized uses. The project incorporates indigenous landscaping and slope stabilization to support long-term use of the space. It also includes pavement markings, signage, pedestrian lighting, and updated parking areas. The ribbon-cutting ceremony will be held at the Pitt Street Bridge entrance in Mount Pleasant. That's Tuesday at 10. Now, checking in on this week's forecast, I'm bringing in Storm Team 2 meteorologist Jed Kristoff. And Jed, we might have a little bit of rain in the forecast. What can you tell us about this week?
Yeah, that's right, especially for the middle part of the week. Today, it's just our typical sea breeze-initiated pop-up showers and thunderstorms. A warm into the low 90s today. The sea breeze presses inland. You get a few stray showers and thunderstorms. More of the same for tomorrow. We're right around 90 degrees. Certainly hot and humid out there. Really breezy tomorrow afternoon and evening, by the way. And then look at Wednesday into Thursday. You notice something that's a little bit not typical. What we're looking at is a cold front approaching us. So you not only have the sea breeze, which could initiate showers and thunderstorms, but now another way that could happen, the cold front itself. It's going to stall out nearby, so that does mean a good chance for some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Pretty much area-wide for Wednesday into Thursday. Now the 4th, it looks like things are starting to clear out by the time we get closer to the weekend. So that's the good news there if you have any outdoor plans. But Wednesday and Thursday, a bit more scattered showers on the way for us.
Now, Jed, this weekend, the National Hurricane Center, they did designate disturbance out in the Gulf of Mexico as a tropical storm, and there has been some interest, particularly near the Florida coast, could impact our weather later this week. What can we expect?
So that area of interest is essentially this cold front I was just talking about. It'll be offshore, and it's just going to hang out over the open ocean. And in hurricane season, that's something you always keep a really close eye on. You get areas of low pressure that love to spin up on the tail end of cold fronts that have just been sitting out there for days. That's what we're expecting. 20% chance, though, so pretty low odds that we end up seeing any gradual development. If anything does form, it would be on the weaker side. Could increase the rain forecast for sure Sunday into early next week, but aside from that, no real big weather concerns there. So we're monitoring it, and we'll keep you posted.
So, Jed, for people who are making those early plans for the 4th of July weekend, what could we say to them? Just monitor the forecast.
Monitor the forecast, and then, even just our sea breeze, pop-up showers, and thunderstorms. A lot of folks trying to get outside. Keep an eye on the sky. Be ready to move indoors if you hear that thunder.
Well, Jed, thank you for joining us on this first episode of News 2 Now. We look forward to having you back here tomorrow morning.
Glad to be here.
Taking a look now at the top stories on counton2.com, the Charleston Animal Society is going to help manage the Berkeley Animal Center beginning tomorrow. It's a new partnership between the two low-country animal shelters set to begin this week. Charleston Animal Society, they're kind of taking over operations to give Berkeley Animal Center a helping hand. They don't have as many resources, so that with the Charleston Animal Society coming in, kind of boost up their staff and the resources just to really kind of help the animals out in that area. The Berkeley Animal Center will be closed on July 1st to allow for that transition of systems and processing of the animals. They'll be setting up new computers and installing more security. The center will be back to normal operations on July 2nd. And check this out. The cast of Outer Banks, from the popular Netflix series, are filming their final season here in the Lowcountry. Now, a lot of people have been abuzz about this on social media over the past couple of days, saying that they have seen the cast filming out in various areas of the Lowcountry, specifically Mount Pleasant Old Village, in areas they typically film at, Shem Creek. So a lot of people posting about this out on their Instagram, TikTok's account, and you have been able to see in some of their videos, some of the cast members actually coming up and speaking with people who are enjoying some time watching them film out in the Lowcountry. Now, Netflix says that this is the 5th and final season of the very popular show, which obviously set in the Outer Banks but filmed here in the Charleston area. A release date has not yet been given by Netflix, but most likely they will probably either premiere in the late winter or early spring of next year. So something to look forward to. And this is just yet another show that has been filming in the Charleston area not too long ago. We had Righteous Gemstones for HBO, which wrapped up filming in the summer and released its last episode late this winter. And take a look at this. An officer out in St. George is being hailed for rescuing a litter of puppies that were trapped in a storm drain. Officer Irwin came to the rescue of several puppies after they were found in a storm drain just on the outskirts of town, according to the police department. Acting with compassion, Officer Irwin ensured each puppy was safe, warm, and given proper care after they were removed from the storm drain. Now, this is not her first experience. The police department says that Officer Irwin has helped save animals in the past. So they are really kind of just congratulating her and thanking her for, not hesitating and jumping to lend a helping hand, no matter if it's a stranded kitten, a litter of pups, or just regular people out on the street and need a help from law enforcement. Now, you can always head over to counton2.com and check out these stories and all of the trending stories on the website. Again, that's counton2.com. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, News 2's digital political reporter Sophie Brams is going to join us with an early look at the race for South Carolina governor. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining us here on News 2 Now in the WCBD Plus Streaming Center, Sophie Brams, our digital political reporter. Sophie, you have had quite a busy couple of weeks here. What is going on in this world of elections in South Carolina?
That's right, Tim. Well, I'm really happy to be here for this inaugural edition of News 2 Now on our WCBD Plus streaming app. And you're right, we are off to a pretty quick start in the 2026 governor's race. Now, for those people watching who don't know, Governor Henry McMaster, who's the current governor, he's actually the longest serving governor in our state's history. He is not running for re-election because he can't. He is term limited. So we have our first wide open governor's race, meaning no incumbent in that seat running again for the first time since 2010. So we're certainly expecting a lot of people to kind of jump into the field here.
Now, Sophie, who have we seen already jump into the race so far, and who do you think is going to throw their hat into the ring?
Sure. So there have been, for the last few months, we've kind of been hearing some rumblings about people who may or may not get in. And then just last week, we finally had our first two official entrants into the race. So last Monday up in Lexington County, South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson announcing his bid for the Republican nomination. Then later that week, State Senator Josh Kimbrell from the Spartanburg area, he is also seeking that Republican nomination. So those are the first two to kind of officially throw their hats in the ring. But some other people we're keeping an eye on: Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett, U.S. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, Congressman Ralph Norman from the upstate. A couple other people that may or may not get in on the Republican side. Now, on the Democratic side, Haven't seen as much movement there so far yet. But State Representative Jermaine Johnson from the Richland County area, he has launched an exploratory committee, so he is certainly looking at that as well.
Now, Sophie, Alan Wilson kind of hit the ground running when he announced his campaign, hosting an event out in Summerville where he had the Tri-County sheriffs come out and help endorse him. What do you think this really means for his campaign? He is one of the top law enforcement officials in the state's top prosecutor. And now you've got the backing of your primary sheriffs in the Low Country, and I believe also in the upstate, some sheriffs threw their support behind him as well. So what does this mean for his campaign, and do you really think this will help bolster him in the polls and heading into next year and ultimately into the election?
So we're still a year away from the primaries, and that's really important to remember. We are still a year away from the primaries, a year and a half away from the general election. So certainly interesting to see people coming out this early to kind of throw their support behind a candidate when a lot of them have not announced yet. So as you mentioned, the sheriffs for Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester County coming out to officially endorse Alan Wilson for governor. An early show of strength for him to have that law enforcement backing. Certainly his background is primarily in prosecution and then, in a little bit of law as well. So it's just interesting to see them come out, throw their support. They say they're behind him 100%. And then you're right, a sheriff from the upstate also came out last week, towards the end of the week, and endorsed Alan Wilson as well.
Now, Sophie, what do you think some of the challenges are going to be in this race, specifically for Alan Wilson or for anyone else who might decide to join in?
Well, there was a really interesting poll from Winthrop University that came out just a couple of months ago that was kind of looking at some of these names that we just talked about of who might be considering runs for governor and kind of looking at who do people in South Carolina know, who are they familiar with. And they actually found that, people in South Carolina, voters, general population, are more familiar with Nancy Mace, that's our congresswoman here in the 1st Congressional District, than any other candidates whose names were asked in that poll. So I think name recognition is going to be huge. I think we also expect to see a lot of money kind of poured into this race. As I mentioned, first open governor's race in quite some time. And so we, even though it may not be super competitive, because South Carolina, of course, leans more Republican, so whoever gets that Republican nomination probably going to be favored heading into the general election. But we certainly expect to see a lot of money kind of poured into this race on that Republican side and maybe even on the Democratic side to kind of boost some momentum there.
Now, the state might be abuzz with the governor's race, but there's also some talk about Lindsey Graham and his position. A couple of people throwing their hats into the ring, really on both sides of the aisle. What have you heard about this? Who is running for Lindsey Graham's seat, and what are the challenges that you think that he might face this cycle?
So, Senator Lindsey Graham up for re-election next year as well. And we've already seen a couple people kind of get into that race. On the Republican side, we've seen Mark Lynch. He's an upstate businessman. And then on the Democratic side is really where we've seen a lot of movement. Dr. Annie Andrews, some of you may remember, she ran against Nancy Mace in the 1st Congressional District just a couple of years ago. She says she is running for that U.S. Senate seat on the Democratic side. So is Lee Johnson. He is a engineer from the Greenville area. He's also getting into this race. And again, Lindsey Graham running for re-election. His campaign is being co-chaired by two pretty big names in South Carolina. He's already amassed a pretty big war chest. That's going to be tough to overcome. He is a great fundraiser, and that is really going to be I think the biggest thing in this race. Of course, a couple years ago he ran against Jamie Harrison on the Democratic side. Each of them raised over $100 million by the end of that campaign. So we are certainly going to be keeping an eye on that.
Well, there's going to be a lot to follow. Sophie, what else out there this election season should people be watching for?
Sure. So, those are kind of our big races, but we're also going to have some other races on the statewide side. So, of course, Alan Wilson not seeking re-election as Attorney General, so we will expect to see some candidates jump in there. Haven't heard much on that front. We know Solicitor David Pasco says he's considering it, but hasn't made anything official yet, so we'll be keeping our eyes on that one as well.
And if Nancy Mace were to jump into the race for the governor, that means someone's going to have to step in and take her position.
That's right.
So, it could mean that another very hotly contested race for South Carolina's 1st Congressional District as well.
Absolutely, that's right.
Is there anyone that you think might be willing to jump in and run for that seat?
So we've seen a couple people. So Mac DeFord, actually, who ran last time around, he did not win the Democratic nomination last time around. Michael Moore won that. He has been very active on social media, kind of maybe putting some feelers out there, a little bit hard to tell. Again, nothing kind of official on the 1st Congressional District side. I think a lot of people may be waiting to see what Nancy Mace decides to do. She has been talking about for some time now getting into that governor's race, but again, hasn't really made anything official. She says a decision may be coming by the end of the summer. So I think people may be kind of waiting. Again, we're still a ways away from the general election, so plenty of time there.
Plenty of time for those political ads to start popping up on your TV and following you wherever you go. Sophie, we will always be here, of course. People can go to counton2.com. Under the news tab on our website, just hover over that and you can click on your local election headquarters, and all of Sophie's reporting will be found there. Any bit of information that you need to know about this election cycle and future elections will be on our website as well. Sophie, thank you so much for joining us. And if you'll stick around right after this break, we'd like to bring you back in and talk about some of the top viral videos circulating on the web.
Sounds like fun. Let's do it.
We'll be right back right after this. You're watching News 2 Now on WCBD+. Welcome back to News 2 Now. I'm joined by Sophie Brams. And Sophie, we want to take a look at some of the top trending videos on the website right now. Take a look at this. It has been extremely hot here in the Low Country, but out in Chile, several people were rescued from blizzard conditions. Now, about a dozen people had to be rescued from a mountain highway in Chile after a powerful blizzard brought near whiteout conditions, according to local authorities. Police said 27 people were trapped overnight in their vehicles. This was in the Antofagasta region. So among those rescued were Brazilian and Chilean tourists, according to local media. Police say that they later gave an update that said 59 people altogether had been rescued from these blizzard conditions. Sophie, it is crazy to be talking about blizzard and snow this time of year when we are just so hot. Can you imagine walking out your house this weekend and feeling those hot temperatures, and to know that not too far away here, a couple of thousand, however many miles, there's actually a blizzard going on that are trapping people in their vehicles? This is not something that we typically hear about this time of year here.
No, I mean, I think it is really surprising, and you're right. I mean, it has been so hot here in Charleston. I mean, it feels like it's been hotter than it normally is this time of year. I don't know. I feel like I kind of say that every year. It just always feels like it's getting hotter and hotter out there. But no, I mean, it's kind of hard to believe, right, that they are dealing with those kinds of blizzard conditions. But of course, like, it's the Southern Hemisphere. We've got opposite seasons going on. And so, it's pretty crazy. It's sad. Hopefully everybody was okay. No injuries, it doesn't sound like. But definitely kind of a sight to see. And honestly, not something that we are really familiar with here in the Low Country at all. Never experienced a blizzard. I've only seen snow fall a handful of times even.
Snow and ice earlier this year, when we certainly had our fill of that for quite a while, I think. Dealing with that for days and days, and the impact that it has on our area roads and bridges. So, I can't imagine just a little bit of icing and snow here will shut down our roads. So you have a blizzard here and it's shutting down roads in the mountains of Chile. And then not too long ago, maybe last week or the week before, there was actually some snowy conditions out in the mountains of New Mexico, which kind of caused some problems out there. Some surveillance video from, I believe, the National Weather Service out in New Mexico kind of showed some snowy conditions. So it's just interesting to see that no matter how hot it is here, there's probably going to be some snow somewhere. And
I'll tell you what, that snowstorm earlier this year, or I guess ice storm really, that kind of made me understand why people up north always say the snow's fun for about a day, and then after a couple of days, you're just ready for it to be out of there. And that's kind of how we started to feel, I feel like.
About that second walk to the hotel room after a long shift of working in snow and ice, I was pretty much over it.
Yep, that's right.
We'll take a look at this. A couple of bears in search of honey. Two European brown bears, escaped from their enclosure at a wildlife park in Otteray, St. Mary, England on last Monday, and they were seen gobbling down a week's worth of honey. The brown bears, Mish and Lucy, both 5, broke out of their enclosure at Wildwood, Devon, and made their beeline for a footage storage area where they enjoyed a 7-day supply of honey, among other snacks, before they were eventually returned to their enclosure. So a little activity from Yogi Bear, just enjoying a little bit of honey. Sophie, you got to imagine, you're a bear, you're probably in hibernation for a little while, you're hungry, and you go out searching for honey. quite a feast for these guys.
I mean, it's real life Winnie the Pooh, right? I mean, you hardly ever really see that. And, it's funny, it kind of reminds me of how, a couple of months ago, or I guess it maybe even was 6 months or more now, we had those monkeys escape from the research facility down in Yemassee, down in the Beaufort County area. And, they were catching them by feeding them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And it's just funny to think, like, these animals, they just love all the same things we do, right? Like, but they were, that's how they were bringing them back in, was trying to lure them back in with PB&Js, which would work for me, I think.
It would work for me as well. I love a good PB&J and some fresh honey. You can't say no to that, right? So.
Right.
Wildwood Devon said there was no threat to the public and park visitors at any point during the bears' escape. The pair were safely returned to their enclosure within an hour. Just got to really enjoy a nice little getaway, enjoy some honey.
How much honey did you say that they found?
It was a 7-day supply. So I can't quite imagine how much honey a 7-day supply is
Gotta be a lot.
A den of bears at this zoo, basically. So it had to have been a lot.
Yeah, wow.
The footage was released by the park, which shows them this one specifically, this bear, Lucy, chowing down on snacks at the food store. So you know what? Everybody's got to enjoy a moment of escape and just try something new, and that's exactly what these bears did.
Listen, we all love a little sweet treat, right? And these bears are definitely taking that into consideration.
Absolutely. And take a look at this. Speaking of a little bit of treat, so some flamingos were treated to special enrichment boxes for their birthday not too long ago. This is the Oakland Zoo out in California. They said their flamingos had a fabulous week, celebrating Pink Flamingo Day and 2 birthdays. The footage, which was released by the Oakland Zoo, shows the flamingos in their pink boxes inside their enclosure. Sophie, let me ask you this, a little pop quiz. Do you know what a group of flamingos is called?
I don't think I do. What is it?
They are called a flamboyance, and the reason why they are pink is from mostly because of all the shrimp that they eat.
I did know that. I remember learning about that at the Riverbank Zoo because they have a little area of flamingos there. And I remember kind of listening in on one of the tours that they do into one of the guides was saying it's because of all the shrimp that they eat. That's really what turns them kind of pink.
It's actually pretty cool to kind of think about and realize these beautiful birds just in general, and that's how they get their pink tint to them, just by eating some shrimp. A lot of shrimp here in the Low Country. Good thing that doesn't exactly happen to people, us turning pink, because I think you'd have a lot of pink Charlestonians kind of walking around.
You definitely would.
Excuse me. Now, the zoo said the special enrichment boxes were filled with their favorite goodies, and it's also saying that they were tinkled pink by the enrichment boxes. Now, Sophie, not too long ago, there was a hurricane that came through the Gulf region and through the Caribbean, and actually brought a lot of flamingos up into South Carolina and areas across the Southeast. Outside of the zoo, have you ever experienced a flamingo in real life?
I actually haven't. I've never seen one outside of a zoo setting. I've always wanted to. Because I think it would just be really cool. I mean, they're so beautiful when you see them in person. It's kind of hard. You look at them in pictures, and of course, like, they make them look really, really pink in the pictures and all of that. But they really are quite beautiful and really just a stunning sight. I mean, just a real feat of nature to see those animals. I would love to see them out in the wild, but I never have. Have you been so lucky?
Nope, only at the zoo or animal wildlife centers like Disney's Animal Kingdom, the Riverbank Zoo. I've never seen one in person. I would absolutely love to. I'm like you. I'm not the biggest fan of birds. Some of them can be quite intimidating and scary for me, owls and things like that. But to see a flamingo out in the real world, I think that there would be something special about that moment, just because we never really get to experience that.
No, yeah, I mean, just like kind of the whimsical nature of it, right? Is, again, like something that you never really get to see out in the wild. So I just think it would be really interesting to see one. I'd love to.
I would agree. Now, it might be worth the Oakland Zoo talking to this zoo out in England where the bears kind of escape their habitat to enjoy some honey. So maybe it might be time for the bears to get a little enrichment package of honey and who knows what else.
They might need that. They might need that.
Exactly. But, it's nice to see that zoos take care of their animals, and they're just not kind of regulated to what's out there. And during feeding time, that they actually get enrichment boxes and give them a little bit of activity and a little bit of treat to enjoy while they're just enjoying basically the life in captivity.
Yeah, it is really nice to see. I think sometimes zoos get a little bit of a bad rep. But a lot of the zoos, big zoos, take really good care of their animals. Certainly that's the case with the South Carolina Aquarium and the Riverbank Zoo. They take really, really good care of their animals, so we're glad to see that.
Certainly. Well, Sophie, thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of News 2 Now. We'll be back
Thanks,
here.
Tim.
Absolutely. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. with another episode and a look at more viral videos. Thank you for joining us on this inaugural episode. That's all the time we have for today. Streaming live on WCBD Plus. We'll be back here tomorrow.